welcome back to Salmon's Pizzeria. We are back for more Championship Penitentiary action. I am, of course, your host, Callum Blythe, and joining me, as usual, is Kieran Ashton. How are you, Kieran?
I am alright. Delighted to be back on. Talking about obviously the weekend's action, midweek action, which we'll obviously get into as well. I'm sure you'll be happy to talk about Tuesday night's game, Callan. But nonetheless, delighted to be back on. It's always a pleasure.
I'm just happy about the weekend action, to be honest. Nothing happened midweek. That's not in my notes. But there's plenty of stuff to go through, plenty of games. And of course, we do start off with the big one Friday night under the lights title fight edition. Partick Thistle at home to St Johnstone. This one, of course, a battle between the top two sides in what is arguably a must win for Thistle, while a Saints win would see them potentially out of sight. Kieran, you were able to watch this game, so I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, I was there Friday night. I felt quietly confident ahead of Friday, despite injuries that have completely kind of battered the squad in key areas now, as we spoke about in the last podcast episode, I'm sure. But Smith, Watt, and who's the other boy that's out? Hold on, it'll come to me. Smith, Watt, and Chalmers. Sorry, there we go. Smith, Watt, and Chalmers being out. That's three major injuries in key areas, and it's not like they're only out for a couple of weeks. They're out for like I think two of them are out for 8 weeks, which would take them right up to about playoff season before they come back. Smith just a bit before that. But nonetheless, it was at Firhill, and I know how well we've played at Firhill. We've made it a bit of a fortress this season, um, which that could be the opposite can be said about our away form. But anyway, I was a bit confident. It was at Firhill. Mind you, O'Reilly again missing out due to suspension. I knew we'd have to kind of dig in, be a bit more compact in defence. In the first 20 minutes or so, I think we weathered a bit of a storm. St Johnstone were pretty much camped in our own half. We couldn't really get out of it. Drury Payton came close on a few occasions. I remember he had a shot that just flashed wide to the post. I thought Payton was probably at the centre of pretty much all St Johnstone chances on Friday night. Again, I think it was a couple of minutes after that, Clark was kind of forced into a save, which he kind of it looked a bit awkward that it came to him, and he kind of like palmed it away rather than catching it, but nonetheless that got dealt with pretty well. I thought it took us a while to get into the game. I felt it took us quite a bit to get out of our own half. I About 25 minutes in, that's when we started to show a bit of fight, show a bit of life. Stanley had a curling effort. This is our first chance in the game. Stanley had a curling effort. I think it was just headed away just off the line by Jack Baird, who we'll want to talk about a bit fucking later on. But if he wasn't there, it was going to go in. It would have been a lovely goal, but it was really well dealt with by St Johnstone. I felt in the second half we came into it a lot more. 50 minutes in, Samuel had a chance, but it was gathered by Stewart. But then Peyton again would have a free kick on the byline. As I said, he was at the centre of the chances St Johnstone had on Friday night. He had a free kick just on the byline, but it just went past the post. It managed to miss about 5 people in the box. It just went wide. Um, and then again, for a spell of 10-15 minutes in the second half, St Johnstone were camped in their own box and we could not get out of it. But I felt we dealt. I thought we dealt with our chances well. I think other than the 2 chances as well, about 5 minutes apart each other, I thought we managed to nullify Josh McPake, sorry, very well. which is something that we've kind of struggled with. Even when he was at Queen's Park, he loves scoring a goal against us, so I know he was going to be the main threat. But I think we managed to. I was speaking to Cal before, like, after the game, and it was like, yeah, I think McPake's pretty much getting doubled up on now, and teams are starting to kind of suss him out a wee bit, kind of mark him out of games, and that's what he done on Friday night. Managed to deal with him well because we know he can create something out of absolutely nothing. He's just that kind of player. And then obviously we had chances of our own. 79th minute, Stanley came very close with a left-footed volley, but it just went past the post. And then we've got to talk about Baird's elbow on Fitzpatrick as well, Callum. I don't know if you've seen that. I didn't see it in the stadium, but I seen it after, and I was so angry. I'm generally flabbergasted as to how the linesman hasn't seen that. How the I guess the referee isn't looking there at the time, but there's two linesmen there. How that's not been caught by one of them is disgraceful. And even when you know it's bad when even St Johnstone fans. I know I've seen Cal call it out as well on Twitter. That's just it was shocking. And I've seen a few St Johnstone fans going, "Oh well, O'Reilly elbowed." Try to think who it was. Cannot remember off the top of my head, but I know he kind of in the when we beat them 2-1 at Firhill. O'Reilly did, yeah, fucking did elbow one of St Johnstone players, but both of them were going for the ball. Jack Baird knew what he was doing with that elbow. He was literally looking at him as he done it. But I'll not talk about that before I get cancelled, before we get off the air. You know what I mean? So, but I thought throughout the game, I thought physically we matched St Johnstone. We had chances there on to win it as well, but obviously we were ultimately disappointed. We didn't get the winner. I think in the opening stages we struggled, but we managed to kind of settle in okay. Rode a bit of a storm, and yeah, I thought it overall was a pretty even game. It wasn't the best game of football. I thought it was very scrappy, but I think ultimately the point and the clean sheet suited them more. I think obviously we'll talk about Tuesday's game a bit later. But at the time, I thought that's pretty much it done. In terms of the league, I thought we had to go in and win it. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, we'll take a point before it," and I'm like, we can't really afford to draw. We had to win this. But for St Johnstone, I thought Diabati and Holt were superb for St Johnstone, especially Holt. I think any time we've played him, I think he's been the centre of um, everything that St Johnstone do well. I think he kept the flow. I thought he kept the flow of the game very well for St Johnstone. I think he's up there for player of the year for me, without a doubt. I think when he's on it, he's, as Cal called him in the chat, he's a Rolls Royce when he's on it. But Diabati as well, who I thought was a bit of a cart horse in the 2-2. Obviously, he gave away the penalty at McDermott. I think it was last month. I was about to say that was 2 months away now, which is mental. But Diabati obviously gave away the penalty in the last minute to give us the equaliser. At McDermott, I thought he was excellent on Friday night. I thought he was incredibly solid. It was the atmosphere was good. Thought it was fantastic. There was crowd of 6,137. I feel as well at Firhill, which is good for Championship football. And I think St Johnstone took about 1,600, maybe a bit more than that. I'm not entirely sure, but both sides, both ends non-stop singing. The atmosphere was fantastic. Obviously, the football wasn't as good, but I suppose on the face of it, a point and a clean sheet isn't a bad result, but it obviously suited St Johnstone a lot more than us. But yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like when it came to the football, it's like outside of I think in the second half it was a free kick from Peyton, which
Mhm.
if boys got like a touch on it, it was going to be in.
Yeah.
As aside from that, watching the highlights, really there was not much. But
Yeah.
it's like with that elbow incident that you mentioned, it's a case of it's an off the ball incident. So
Yeah.
it's like the referee is obviously not going to see it, and one of the linesmen is probably not going to see it. But it's
Yeah.
like where it is, it's like surely from my memory, where the linesmen are stood, the linesman that's at like the Colin Weir
Uh huh.
stand, he's usually in like the opposite corner from where it is. I
Yeah.
don't know. Surely he should have been able to see it, but again, I
Yeah.
don't know what his sight line would have been like. But they're very lucky to get away with that.
Definitely. Definitely. I was pretty. I think I was after the game. I was a bit more defeated, but bit more kind of downhearted, you could say, about it, pretty much. But then when I saw that, I get shown it in ones after the game. I was like, I was raging. I'll just be honest here. I was absolutely raging with it. But it's one of the ones, as you said, it's not off the ball incident. It's kind of hard to spot, kind of thing. For the referee anyway. But with the linesman, it was. I don't know how they've not seen that, but aye, as what it is, I suppose. And it's just one of the ones where I made choose tonight. Now our game it starts. Obviously, we're going to talk about that. Made it a must win for us to close the gap, kind of thing. But yeah, it was a good game of football. Really, all the hype was around it being first versus second, and it was very scrappy game to say the least.
I very much seem to be the case. So we'll move on from that one and we'll head on to the Saturday fixtures. We are of course going to start off with Reef Rovers versus Airdrie in what was a must win for both sides. A proper 6 pointer this one. A win for Airdrie would see them level on points with Reef and potentially up to ninth. Of course, the goal difference is between when it comes to the bottom two and everyone else's skews everything significantly. But a win for the home team would see a 6 point gap be made. And for once, I didn't want to die watching Rafe Rovers play in this game because for the first half we were all over them, really. We'd start off, there was an early effort from Lewis Vaughan that hit the post. Innes Cameron would also have an effort going over the bar. Airdrie, they did have a speculative effort, but it was quite easily dealt with by Ray. He did have an opportunity from a corner, which was weird. Like it fell to Innes Cameron at like the back post, who headed it back across goal. If he headed it towards goal, it was in because it was like
Mhm.
open, which is weird. But even then, the second header, I'm not sure I can't mind who it was, but it was basically cleared off the line. And then Ennis Cameron had another one-on-one, and this one was saved by Stone. And then just before the end of the first half, again, Edgewood would have another one-on-one, but this time Josh Ray would save it as well. Um, and it's like I'm watching it, I'm just thinking it's inevitable that we're going to score. And I've not felt that for ages. It's like
Yeah.
before this game, it had genuinely been a month since we scored a goal in the league. That is. So it was all nice. I was getting that hope up, and then start the second half, and the ball would get cut across to Andy Winter, who scuffs it wide despite having basically an open goal in front of him from 12 yards. Not ideal, but still, it's like we're getting there. We're gonna score a goal. Adrian go 1-0 up. Yeah, so the ball would just get played out wide, edge of the box, and it was Adam Devine who is making just a charge, just smashes it first time, and unfortunately it does deflect off of, I think it was Fordyce, and it just wrong foots Josh Ray. Not much either of them could have really done about it. And it's like I gave Adrian a lead at that point. Um, yeah, I think Ross County were winning, Adrian were winning, Rafe losing. It was putting us down to eighth behind Morton, with the three of us all on 30 points. And it was at that point I was properly shitting myself. Where just like,
Yeah.
oh no, it's happening. It's really happening. This is real. This is not hyperbole. This might actually happen. But thankfully, um, evidently the players actually showed some fight back, which is encouraging after what happened last week in the derby. And um, yeah, so it's like we've managed to get our equaliser from a corner, and it is one of the most bizarre corners I have ever seen because it's like the ball gets whipped to like the edge of the 6 yard box at the near post where it reaches Callum Fordyce, who is completely unmarked. And then his header knocks it to the back post where it falls to Innes Cameron, who is completely unmarked and he just gets to smash it home. And it's like you watch the footage and Airdrie have like three players on the line marking Richard Chin. Richard Chin is about 5'7". He is not built for winning headers at all. And they've
Yeah.
got three players marking him, and then it's like two big boys are completely unmarked. It is really weird watching it back, but that came in the 65th minute, and about 10 minutes later, another corner would come in, and there would be a bit of a scramble, but Kai Montague would finally get his first goal for the club. His effort just going in off the underside of the bar, bouncing down, hitting the roof of the net. It's really aesthetically nice finish. It is funny though because the Edry tweet about it mentioned the ball hitting off of Fordyce's arm, which watching back, I'm not convinced it does. But even then, it does hit Fordyce, but it's like if it does hit like his elbow or whatever, it's behind him. He's not even looking at the ball. It's like, and it's like his arms are like all beside him. It's like that's not a handball. Like there's literally nothing that he can do about that. He's not even aware of the ball. That whole sort of thing. So, Adri admin, just try harder about it. Learn how to defend corners. And then, again, 85th minute, Rafe would get a third and Montague would get his second. Some nice build-up play between Richard Chin, who manages to just, through tenacity, keep a hold of the ball. It's like he managed to shrug off a couple of challenges. He plays it through to Doherty, whose cross would find the head of Kai Montague, who's making a lovely run towards the front post. Just bullet header, past the keeper, 3-1. And that was really it for that game. And I went home happy for once, and it was the kind of thing that was really needed, especially with the whole circumstances around, it was, as I mentioned, AG, if they had won and held out, level on points with us. At the time, it's like Ross County got a point. It's like that point, that win now moves us 6 clear of Airdrie, which I think puts them out of reach for us. I don't see Airdrie getting at a minimum 6 points with the goal difference basically 7 in their next 6 games, considering their run of form this for pretty much the full season. But yeah, it's like that could have been, as I mentioned, it could have been like 2-3-0 in the first half, plenty of chances in the second. It was what we've been missing for so long. It's like it was nice to be annoyed about missing chances for once, because usually it's a case of being annoyed at not having chances.
Yeah.
But that's really all I have to say about it. It's weird having like a 30-minute rant about me complaining about this game for once. Kieran, your thoughts on this one?
Well, I think you've pretty much hit the nail on the head there, Cal. I thought it was, as you said, it was all Rafe for most of the first half. Airdrie did have chances of their own, which were very, as you said, very speculative. Um, but I, I think for the first goal, the Airdrie goal, he's in Adam Devine is in quite a bit of space in the left. Before was it Fordyce came out to make the tackle, which obviously deflected off him. But the amount of space he was in, but then similarly for Rafe's equaliser, the amount of space Cameron was in was fucking. You just can't leave him in that amount of space. No wonder they're down there when they defend like that at corners. You know what I mean? But massive win for Rovers, as you said, with the circumstances that you said at the time when Airdrie went 1-0 up, Ross County were winning as well. So it could have been very troubling if things didn't go your way. But massive win for Rovers, and I think that shoe's kind of safe now, you could say. As you obviously look to drag yourself out the dogfight down the bottom, it's a huge win for them. But I think that's Airdrie down 100%. I don't know. I think obviously we'll go into the Ross County game, but they looked kind of all right against Dunfermline. Obviously didn't get the win, but I don't see Airdrie picking up the points now. They look to be in deep trouble, to be honest. And I think a lot of their fans are wanting Alan Taylor Sinclair out as well. I've seen a few shouts for his head, which is mental considering the football he was playing at the start. His tenure when he took over as caretaker, but it's not looking good for Airdrie. I mean, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with Airdrie and not looking good for Airdrie. But massive win for Rovers. You've got to say.
It's like I feel like that game perfectly epitomised this Airdrie team, where it's like they did show that they can be dangerous. They did show they can be competitive, but they just can't over 90 minutes. They just don't have the quality. I mean, you look at it's like looking at their team, and it's like who is really championship quality in that team? There's maybe like 4 players at most, and I mean one of them's Harry Stone, who he's as much as Edry have been losing games. I think he's been pretty decent for them. But it's like you got Mockery, Telfer, Henderson. That's about it. That's just
I'd
really
probably say Lewis Strapp's up there as well. I think he's fairly decent. But yeah, as you said, they've not got that quality to dig them out. You know what I mean? Dig them out of the hole they're in, and yeah, I would not be surprised if they finish bottom now. It's not looking good, and obviously, fair enough to take the lead, but then, as you said, that the corner they had, the defending for that corner was shocking. They had, as you say, Dave, 2 big boys. Cameron was one of them in that amount of space when Mitch and Matt, they were marking Richard Chin, who's like, did you say 4 foot fuck all pretty much? So, all three, there was like 2 or 3 defenders on him, and you've got Innes Cameron there, free to roam at the back post. Aye, uh, if you mark like that at the corners, then defend like that corners, and no wonder they're down where they are.
I was going to say the reason why I didn't mention Lewis Strapp is because he was not in the team at all. I think he's out injured. That'll be why I never mentioned him. but it's like you look at it and it just looks very top end League One, but just not for a championship. And yeah, with the gap, it's also a same gap to Morton. It's like result really went against Edgery this weekend. But yeah, I just think that's it. Like best case scenario is ninth for them. Like there's just no chance of them getting the points needed to climb above either us or Morton. I reckon. Fingers crossed. Fingers
Yeah.
crossed, because I know what this Reef team can do. But aye, speaking of relegation battles, we do of course move up to the Highlands, where it is Ross County against Dunfermline, where County they're looking to get themselves off the bottom of the table, whilst Dunfermline looking to close the gap on Arbroath and open up a bit of a gap to those below them in their playoff push. This didn't go how many people expected it, especially early on. Kieran Phillips would give County the lead. He would manage to just get round the goalkeeper in 12th minute, and his finish from a tight angle, he's well, he did manages to get past the Dunfermline defender who was coming back to try and stop it, and no chance of stopping that one. And then just 3 minutes later, he would double his tally after Uche Ikpeazu would just body Benedictus on the edge of the box, cut it across, and there's Phillips to hit it first time into an empty net. And again, County would end up having a third goal, but it was disallowed for handball, I believe. But Dunfermline would get a goal back through Callum Morrison. His free kick just went through the wall in about the 33rd minute. Moving on to the second half, much improved Dunfermline. They had plenty of chances before this. In the 69th minute, a passing move that, watching it back, I think it involved just about every outfield player. Ended with Robbie Fraser making a run into the box, cutting it back to the front post, and Andy Todd was there to flick it home. But then after that, it became a bit more even. Ross County decided to, hold on a minute, we should probably try and win a game of football here. Both sides definitely had their chances, but aside from Sean Mackey getting sent off for a second booking, there wasn't really much when it comes to chances worthy of talking about. So, on the one hand, it's a good point for Dunfermline, coming back from 2-0 down, but definitely could have been a lot more for them. And again, County, as mentioned with their win, they would have been a lot closer to Rafe and Morton and a bit further clear of Airdrie. But yeah, Kieran, your thoughts on this one?
I mean, the goal Phillips scored for County, I thought it was a really good finish. I think County deserved the lead. They were all over them. And obviously they deserve to extend the league as well through Uche, and I just completely, I'll just say, bodied Benedictus off the ball, and I Dunfermline couldn't get going. It looked like for I don't know, the first 15 minutes or something like that, where County were 2-0 up, and obviously then Morrison gets the free kick, and it's just a hammer blow for County because they were right on top of them for a good spell in the first half, and second half was pretty much, or the start of the second half, sorry, was pretty much the opposite of the first half. Obviously Morrison got the goal to bring it back and to pull it back in the first half, and it was no better way to get it. And then that would have gave them a bit of belief heading into the second half, and then they would get a deserved equaliser pretty much. But I pretty much after Dunfermline's equaliser, it was a good goal for Robbie Fraser. Um, it was it was pretty much even, as you said, 50-50, and obviously we're going to talk about the sending off as well. I don't think Sean Mackey's getting any real complaints really. It was his second bookable offence, wasn't it? So aye, no complaints. I don't think Ross County fans would have many complaints about that. But aye, again, that's for Dunfermline, I suppose. It's good to fight back 2-0 down. But the opposite side of that, Ross County will be disappointed not to win that, especially being 2-0 up early on at home, and kind of chuck the lead a wee bit. But they can't afford. They need wins now, if they're looking to survive in the league. And they're just drawing far too many games, dropping far too many points. So aye, but I suppose good point on the road for Dunfermline. Being down, probably the chances they had second half, they probably could have felt they could have won it. But it was a pretty even game. I think overall, I think draw was pretty much a fair result.
It's like with County, that's them now winless in their last four. The last win being at home against Reef, which at this point I don't really think it counts because it's you're playing Reef at home. But it is definitely a missed opportunity. It's especially for Dunfermline. It's like if they'd done what was expected of them, of probably winning this sort of game, that would have seen them 7 clear of Ayr Queen's Park, who we'll get to in a minute, and 5 behind Arbroath with a game in hand, which it's like, whilst when it comes to those behind them, I don't see that gap closing or anything. But it would have been nice for them to effectively really secure that playoff spot. That fourth playoff spot, and whilst there is no tangible benefit to finishing third instead of fourth, aside from financial, like you get a bit more prize money, but you're still coming in at the same playoff stage. You'll just be playing against each other. I think it's probably confirmed at this point, effectively, that it will be these two playing each other. But it's nice to say you finish third rather than finishing fourth. That whole sort of thing. So I definitely missed opportunity with that. But as you say, it's like with Ross County, it's like they cannot afford at this stage to be dropped for throwing away points like that. Just that's what's gonna. It's definitely what's killed them. They've definitely dropped a few points from winning positions so far this season, and yeah, not good. Not good for the Staggies. Speaking of Arbroath and Queen's Park, that is the next game we're going to cover. Unfortunately, Enzo isn't here for us. But with this one, Arbroath are looking to end their run of 4 draws in a row, whilst Queen's Park are looking to try and keep up with Dunfermline in a potential push for that final playoff spot. But the only real highlight in this is, ironically, the Arbroath goal, which, it's like a ball's just hit long, sort of going over the defence, but, Queen's Park defender, he's under it, and he decides, just easy nod back to the goalkeeper to pick it up. Gavin Riley, however, had other ideas, managing to run in behind. Really nice first touch. It's all on the first touch, this goal. Just keeps it under control, but hits it hard enough to get past Callum Ferry, and it's just an easy slot into the back of the net. It's really good work from Riley, but really silly from Queen's Park. And then for the rest of the game, it was pretty much all Queen's Park, just having sort of half chances, like scrambles and corners, that whole sort of thing. But nothing too notable. Like no 101s, like big misses or whatever. It was just a very scrappy game. This one, but it was like Arbroath. They managed to do enough to keep all 3 points in this one. With that win, it actually puts them now 12 points clear of Ayr and Queen's Park, who are tied on 35 points in 5th and 6th. I think we've said plenty of times this season about Arbroath overachieving, but being 12 points clear of the non-playoff positions with 6 games to go, it's basically confirmed now with them. So continues a very good season for them, and with Queen's Park, I mind Enzo saying about their sort of injury issues right now. It's like they're still got a decent bit of form. They might still climb the table, but who knows how this end of the season is going to go with them. Again, wish Enzo was on to
Yeah.
tell us about it, but yeah, I think that probably puts an end to their hopes for that playoff spot. But they're still, it's like they're what 7 points clear of Ross County, 8 clear of Airdrie. That's them safe. I think that's just gonna finish in the mid-table, which I suppose considering their situation at the end of January after they lost Josh Fowler, where they were like ninth and 2 points ahead of Ross County. It's very good the last couple of months for them. Kieran, thoughts on either team?
I think that's just taking a touch on what you said. The only real highlight was the goal, to be honest. Both the defender and the goalie. I don't know who the defender was that was caught out. I don't know if was it Fieldson? I don't know if he's a midfielder. I'm not entirely sure. But I know it was obviously Callum Ferry. Both had an absolute mare for the first goal, and Gavin O'Reilly's got the easiest job in the world just to tap in. But it wasn't the prettiest game of football in the world, to be honest. Arbroath dug out the win, and the clean sheet as well. And by massive win for Arbroath and consolidating playoffs. I think that's pretty much it. That should be hit confirmed. I don't know if it is mathematically, but pretty sure that's probably both Dunfermline and Arbroath. I mean, I don't see Ayr catching Dunfermline anytime soon. So I think that's pretty much third and fourth confirmed. Not mathematically, but definitely. I think realistically it will be them in the playoffs. But Queen's Park. I mean, I think they're fine. I think they'll stay up. I think they're safe. Like if you offered that to a Queen's Park fan just about Christmas time, I think you would have took it. I sorry. Aye, if you offered that to a Queen's Park fan probably before the season, even at Christmas time when they were coiling right down at the bottom end of the table, by March you're pretty much talking about safety, comfortably safe in the league. I think they would have took that. I think Enzo would have taken that. Especially with the news when Fowler went to St Johnstone in January, and they're thinking about where they're going from here now. I think that's pretty. Everybody thought that's done pretty much, but feared the worst for Queens Park. But they've come out and they've proved everybody wrong, and they've actually. I think they amassed. I think the last season, I think they amassed more points without Fowler than what they have when they had him. So, I think all credit has got to go to Sean Crichton. I think you'll have a few clubs looking at him in the summer. I'd be very surprised if not. If there wouldn't be clubs sniffing about him. I think he's done fantastic. I think he's worked wonders with that Queens Park squad, and all credit has to go to him. But we are both again. They just keep kind of seem to be proving people wrong. Who people before the season started like, nah, they're. I think I had them to finish bottom or second bottom. I think looking at my predictions, so I didn't think they'd be anywhere near. I think they'd be more closer to the relegation playoffs than what they were promotion playoffs. But they've come out and again their management team. Is it Gold who's their
It's Golden
manager?
Hamilton. It's co-managers.
Yeah, it's
That they have.
co-managers. Yeah, for the amount of praise I've given Sean Crichton for the job, for the work he's done at Queens Park. I think we've got to give every bit of credit to them too as well. Who have done fantastic for Arbroath and have pretty much exceeded all expectations. For Arbroath this season, listen again. If you offered Arbroath safety before the season started, you'd have snatched your hand off for it. I think they have been kind of lucky a wee bit with how poorly Ross County are, and Airdrie and Morton and that have been down the bottom end of the table, and obviously Ayr, who have just kind of not been anything at all this season. But that's not to say that they are how well they've done just due to how shite their teams have been. They've been really good as well. They've been very consistent this season as well. Picked up points when a lot of people thought they wouldn't. So, more power to them, and they'll be absolutely delighted with the position they're in at the moment.
So you were saying about just like the inconsistency of the teams below Arbroath. This is actually only their third win in the league this calendar year. It's just that they've not been losing games. That is
Yeah,
what has kept them in this position, which, it's like fair play to them. And as you were saying about Queen's Park, before Fowler left, they were on 18 points from 19 games. They've earned 17 points in the last 11. So,
yeah.
it shows you the sort of run of form they have been on. But I will shall move on then to the final Saturday game, which was Ayr United at home to Morton, and this is a game between two of the teams in the worst runs of form. Ayr United winless in their last five, taking on a Morton side who had lost their last four, and again. When it comes to the highlights, it's a case of the goal from Aaron Conry, a really good ball from Nathan Shaw, would find Conry at the back post, who heads it into the far bottom corner. Really nice goal from Morton there. That came just 3 minutes in. After that, it was a case of just some really good goalkeeping from both goalkeepers, really. Max Thompson, he would deny Nathan Shaw from finding the bottom corner with an effort from the edge of the box. And second half, again, Morton would have. First half it was majority Morton, really. And then second half, there would be a few chances for Ayr, a few half chances. But again, nothing substantial really in this game outside of the goal. Morton holding out for a pretty big 1-0 win. It's again, as mentioned, really helping out with their efforts to stay up. Ayr United, meanwhile, Jesus, they're bad. They're getting dragged into. They are the worst form team when it comes to the last five and also the last 10 games. They've only, as I was saying about Arbroath only winning 3 games this season, but it's like at least they've proven difficult to beat. Ayr have won once, and of course it was at home against Raith Rovers, but it's like having your only win of 2026 be at home against Raith is basically being winless. Like they are in they're in serious trouble. They really are. They really are in serious trouble. It's like we've seen that Ross County have the ability to claw back that gap of what is currently 5. Well, it's 5 points to Morton and Raith, but to Queens Park and Ayr it is 7. But it's like when it comes to this calendar year, so basically roughly the last 10 games. If we're going off the form table for the last 10 games, Ross County have earned 12 points, whilst Ayr have only earned 8. And even for the last 5, and it's like we've got 6 games left, Ross County have earned 5 and Ayr have earned 2. It's just looking terrible for them. They could drop. I won't be surprised if at this rate Ayr finish 8th. Just with the fact, it's 2 points between them and Morton. Now, but it's like with Morton, again, it's a very good result, especially with what's happened below. And it's a case of they're doing enough. They're doing just enough to stay up. Like the game against Partick, as mentioned, they were well deserving of their lead, and until they got that penalty and the red card. But and even with their defeat to Airdrie, even being down to 10 men, they looked the more dangerous outfit. So it's definitely encouraging, to finally get a win that these last 2 performances have arguably deserved. But I reckon they'll just be fine. Kieran, I'll just let you have your thoughts on both teams.
I mean, I think for Morton's goal, the only goal of the game, I thought it was a really good header from Morton, and I think the defence will have got to be doing so much better from an air point of view. It's at the back post, and that's just basic stuff, isn't it? That's what you're taught, that defend your back post for when you're younger, pretty much. It's just basic stuff, and aye, they just do not look good at all. I've not been impressed by Ayr any time we've played them, to be honest. That might come back to bite me in the arse because we play them away to Somerset next week, I think. So that might come back to bite me in the arse, but I don't think so. They're not looking good at all. Brown won't be here in the summer. I don't know if Ayr will just get rid of him now, but I mean, I can see why. If I was an Ayr fan, I'd want him gone now because it's just not. There's no improvement. In fact, I think they've regressed rather than not improved. I don't even think they've been stagnant. I think they've regressed way worse. He'll surely be away in the summer. I don't really see any um, doubts about that. But for Morton, massive win. Clean sheet on the road, 3 points on the road as well, and I think that's massive in keeping them up. I think they will just about stay up, as you said. But yeah, they're sleepwalking into relegation form, you could say. I think Ross County and Airdrie are just slightly worse than Ayr, so I think they will. I think they'll stay up just by that. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they finish eighth. With teams around about them starting to pick up wins and stuff like that. It's not good at all for Airdrie. I think they're very lucky with the fact that how badly Ross County and Airdrie started and how badly they've been throughout the whole season. I think they're very lucky. Because if not, they'd be definitely they're getting dragged right down now. They're getting dragged right down in it. And I think they can forget about the promotion playoffs as well, to be honest.
Yeah, it's like around about this time last season was when they started to drop out of the title race that they were in with Falkirk and
And let's not
Livingston.
forget as well, sorry, Cam, the amount of money they've spent, that they've got as well, the amount of money they've invested, not just this season, but last season as well. For them to be in the position that they're in, I think I had them challenging for the title this season. I had them in second. How silly do I look now? Aye, absolutely mental. But a lot of the fans are not happy with Brown, and quite rightly so. To be honest, I think nobody can blame them at all.
It's like probably not the silliest prediction considering who other people on this podcast put to finish second. But yeah, it's like that A team. It's like you were thinking, okay, so they'd sort of like fell away, but they were in the title fight last season, and then they spent all this money on not just the players, but it's like they got that brand new hospitality bit. They're starting to doing a whole load of work, a whole lot of investments going into Air right now, and they have regressed hard, like really hard, and it's kind of mirrors Reef Rovers, come to think of it. But yeah, it's like with to put another comparison with Reef, it's like when it comes to Air, it's like, with Reef, I've at least had the hope of, it's like our home form's been decent. It's like we're sitting like maybe fifth or sixth in the home form table, and it's like Air are like eighth. I think they've only won 3 home games this season, and it's like only Airdrie have lost. Only Airdrie have won less. Airdrie have only won twice at home this season, and they're rightfully bottom of the league. And it's like, what is there to look forward to with this Air team? Like this, it just doesn't look like they have anything home or away at this rate, and that's definitely of real concern. That supposedly, I remember seeing something said or mentioned to me about how it's like if Reef win on Friday, that could be it for Scott Brown. They could just pull the trigger there and then, which it's like I don't want to get ahead of myself, but with how things are going, would I wouldn't be against putting money on that. you
Yeah.
know, but yeah, it's like. But when it does come to Morton, meanwhile, it's a seventh win of the season, which is coincidentally the same number that Ayr managed to get. But when it comes to the aforementioned form table, it's like last 10, they're seventh, last five, well, they're actually ninth because of those four losses. But it's like the performances haven't reflected the form, and this is one that actually does. Like this is a deserved win for them. So yeah, we'll definitely see Morton probably edge away from that bottom two now. But we shall find that's all the weekend games, but of course it is midweek action, and it was of course Kieran's been looking forward to this one. Reef at home to Partick Thistle. This is one where Partick were looking to get their first win in Kirkcaldy since 2011, 15 years ago. I was in primary school. Sorry to any older listeners. Meanwhile, Reef are looking to take advantage of Thistle's poor form in Kirkcaldy and away form in general to widen the gap on those below. With this one, it was Thistle were definitely on top for the first 10 minutes. Thistle came out the gates, they were basically more or less camped in a half. But first proper big opportunity was definitely Dylan Easton's header. That was heading towards the bottom corner, but it was saved brilliantly by Badenakis, who was in for Josh Clark.
Josh Clark, he's been
Who's
called up for Northern Ireland, so
is it his senior team?
yeah.
Is it senior team or under 21s?
I think it's a senior. I'm not. I think it might be senior.
Oh, fair play
I'll
to
need to
him, but
check that. I'll need to double check that. But
yeah, it's like seeing as it was your end, what was the reaction to that save?
well, I think getting into the game personally, with Budanouka starting, who hasn't had he's had a difficult season, difficult start to his official career. Budanoukas, but I I thought it was solid, and that save as well was really well. It was right on the line as well. I thought it was, and I thought it was a with the space that Easton had. I don't think Clark was getting to it, but it was pretty good. I think it was kind of heart and mouth kind of moment. But I thought overall again, not just that save, but I thought Bardinaukus looked very solid. On Tuesday night, I don't think he had much to do. I would say. I think obviously Bud saved it in Bud Naukus saved it in the first half for Easton's header, and then Easton hit the bar. I think he there was another chance where he kind of flapped at it second half. He kind of saved it and it went up. I think it hit the bar or something like that.
That was another one that we'll get onto in a
Uh-huh.
bit. But yeah, it's like that first save was a real. Well, it turned out to be a real sliding doors moment because
Yeah.
it's like after that, it's like Welsh Faith again. They still had their chances. It's like Thistle again started to grow into it, and they would eventually take the lead through. Well, I can only say it was some lovely bit of play down that left hand side. Uh, with a ball coming across goal, being finished off by Ben McPherson, making it 1-0 just before halftime. And it's like it's like watching it. It's like I'm in the south stand, way up, so it's like I've got a pretty good view of what's happening, and I couldn't be mad. I couldn't be mad about it. At the time, I just thought it was just really well worked goal from Thistle. I think I'd seen Thistle put up a graphic describing the goal, and there was like 5 or 6 passes in that move.
Yeah.
But it's like what really makes it was Alex Samuel doing that little flick behind him, that sort of back heel sort of thing, just into open space, run was being made cross, and it's like annoyingly McPherson was just by himself, but it was just well worked. But as so yeah, your thoughts on that goal?
It was lovely. It was fantastic. I think Thistle described it as Yogo. Was it Yogo Bonito or something like that? It was like 5 or 6 passes. It was really well worked. Team goal. It was fantastic. But that was and that Alex Samuel that that was fantastic. I think that move is all him pretty much, or he that the best part of that move was that flick for Samuel onto Aidan Fitzpatrick, who's gotten yet another assist. But I right, cool. But that was brilliant. It was a fantastic goal, and I think it was kind of on the run of play. The goal was like kind of against the run of play, but because I think we can have other than that. That's as you said, the first 10 minutes, that spell of where we pretty much had most of the ball and controlled it, and probably had the better share of the chances. We were forced to then we were like we had to defend our box for most of that first half. But it was a lovely goal, and no better way of getting it just before half time.
It's in. That's what I was. It was a very even game, but unlike other Rover games where it was even because both teams were a bit shite, this was actually a case of both teams actually being good, which
Yeah.
makes a change, and is probably why I was less annoyed about it than I normally am. But then, it's like second half comes, and we'd see again. It was again very even. We start with Dylan Easton hitting the bar after he cut inside. There was a scramble in the box afterwards, but eventually Thistle did clear the ball. Then the next opportunity came to Aidan Fitzpatrick. He'd have an effort from about 20 yards, 20 to 25 yards, curling effort. And it's a really good hit, but Josh Ray
I
makes it.
thought it was in Callum. Truth be told, but it was a fantastic save for Josh Ray. That was a
I was going to say, I thought it
fantastic
was in as
save.
well.
Yeah, I thought it was just about curl right into the kind of, I would say top corner. It wasn't quite top corner, but but Josh Ray got to it really well. It was a fantastic save.
And then after that, I think this is the second one that the second Baranaka save you're on about, where it's like Easton's first time volley that he sort of scuffs, like it just sort of like bounces into the ground, but it's heading towards the top corner, and upon replay, it is going towards the top corner, and Baranakis just sort of does just enough to like tap it onto
Aye,
the bar, where it goes up and it like, comes down on the line. It's like we were going for a corner or something. At first, I thought it just hit the. At first, I thought it hit the bar. I didn't think Baranakis got to it, but watching the replay again, it's another sliding doors moment, another really good save from him. And then, it was it was still pretty end to end, but then the last real big chance for Rafe came basically 90th minute. Ball just falls to Richard Chin. He just, it's like he's in the middle of the box at the edge, and it's a bit of like a high bounce, and he just takes a swing at it, but he does something that I would end up doing, which is just sort of scuffing it and just like not getting behind it properly at all. It's like on the one hand, yes, it was on target, but there was like no power. It was easy for Bodinakis to collect it. It's a real shame. It's like, I like Richard Chin. I thought he was the real difference maker against Edry, and he has been in some games, but it's like he's young. It'll come to him, that whole sort of thing. But then, of course, right at the death, Aidan Fitzpatrick manages to dance through away from midfield and defence, manages to fire bottom corner, and it is 2-0, which the fact it was 2-0 is what annoys me, because going by that game, if it was 1-0 and it was just decided by just that one bit of quality, it's like, it is what it is. It's like that happens. It was a good performance, and I still maintain it was a good performance. But it's like that was never a 2-0 game. I think Reef deserved at least a draw from it. I think it's just unfortunate. It's like at least my complaint for once is about us not finishing chances.
Yeah.
Because again, usually in these games, it's a case of we did fuck all. We deserve to lose by however many, and I'd go on like a 30-minute rant, like I did last week after the Dunfermline game, and I think it was like what was the last one? It was 2-0 against Ross County, where I think I talked about that game for about 25 minutes, just complaining. But it just is what it is. It's like Partick Thistle second in the league. It's not. It's like going into these two fixtures. If you told me, yeah, we beat Edgery, but we lost to Thistle, I'd just been like, all right, and then that's kind of what I want. If we got a win against Thistle as a bonus, it's like any result against Thistle was a bonus after uh, beating Edgery. So not too much to complain about, really. But Kieran, obviously, you got to celebrate your first win in Kirkcaldy since 2011. So I'm
Yeah,
sure you're
I mean,
button.
well, it's my first ever one at Starts Park, to be honest. So normally we go there, we serve up absolute stinkers. So finally got to witness a win at Kirkcaldy, and I am wearing the kit. This was before Tuesday night. This was the kit we wore in 2011 when we beat East in Kirkcaldy. So aye, absolutely delighted. As you said, two goals were absolutely beautiful. First one was a well worked team goal. Second goal was more individual skill by Aidan Fitzpatrick, who I'm assured now is sleeping very well after that. Um, after that performance he put in.
I think it's
That's
like
him
the
now on
first time
17.
it is like Fitzpatrick is one of those players who it's like he's always been bigged up, but it's like in games against Reef, he just hasn't really turned up as much as he has against other
Yeah.
teams. But it's like this is the first real one, and like fair play to him. I'm not sure if he got man of the match or not, but yeah, he was probably deserving of
But
it.
I
Absolutely.
think he's probably up there for shouts. But I think Ashcroft was absolutely fantastic on Tuesday night. It was a proper captain's performance for him, and I think he was brilliant. But I thought Lowry again, Bud, I thought was really good. Samuel, who albeit didn't score, but I think he was fantastic. Samuel. And Ingram as well, who we just signed on loan for Dundee. I think he's been really fantastic. Lowry, who's well, but we've got to credit him as well. We just signed him in January, and beforehand he hadn't played many minutes before he came to us. But I slotted him seamlessly, particularly two tough games. And he's came away with a clean sheet for both, and I deserves a lot of praise, and I think he's looked very solid. But Fitzpatrick as well. He's a player who gets a lot of pelters for other fans. Amongst obviously, I think a few Ray fans were giving him pelters and that, and Thistle fans were latching on, getting up them after some of their tweets recircled after the game in October. But that's him on 17 goals and assists now. That's 17 goal contributions in total this season. He deserves a lot of praise. Um, I think he's developed a lot defensively this season, and obviously he's still getting that output. His goals, maybe you could argue, are not as good for a winger, not good enough for a winger. But his assists is like he's fantastic and gets a lot of some of the criticism is justified, but some of it is he's a bit of a scapegoat for a lot of Fizzle fans, and aye. But again, I thought as well, just something else I'd like to touch on. I thought it was a tactical masterclass once again for Wilson, making use of the squad that we have at the moment with the injuries. And obviously we've added to our squad just now as of tonight. We've signed Gary Mackay Stephen. So it's a position that we're very light in. We've only got one winger at the moment with Chalmers out, so it's good to add a bit of depth and hopefully, fingers crossed, a bit of quality. We know what Gary Mackay Stephen can do. I think you might be just a bit off it now. Um, but that's a Ross County team that would make Paley look absolutely shocking. So, aye, the less said about that, the better. But it's a tactic, especially bringing on Reading as well. In the second half, when Brave Rovers put on Richard Chin, just to match with him, and I thought we dealt with that perfectly. But we took risks as well, dropping like Sosa, Redding, and Crawford on Tuesday night, but it paid off. And we had to go a bit more physical, I felt. And it worked in our favour. But if there were ever a squad of players, ever a management team break the start to do, it was this squad. It would have to be this squad. Just absolutely fantastic. The togetherness as well with this team is second to none. I don't think I've seen it with a Thistle team in a long, long time. The togetherness, but for the management to the squad, it's fantastic, and I long may it continue. Friday night, if you asked me if the title was done in my head, I would have said yes. I think we're right back in it again. That's us 2 points. We could be 2 points behind if we win on Friday night. I'm not saying that's a certified win. Ross County are, for how bad they are and how the amount of cheap shots I might have given them in this episode, this podcast episode. They've still got everything to fight for on Friday night as well. They're down at the bottom end fighting for their life, so I wouldn't take them lightly. But of course we win on Friday night, that's us 2 points behind St Johnstone again. We've clawed it right back. So I count us out of your own peril. That's what I say. You know what I mean? But definitely, I don't think we're out it yet. Which is mental because after Friday, I was pretty much handing the title to St Johnstone after the draw. But I never have thought we were winning on Tuesday. I didn't think we were doing it. But it was fantastic finally to celebrate a win in Kirkcaldy.
I was going to say, it's like if Rafe had won that, we'd been up to fifth, which is
Yeah.
just utterly mental, considering what I was like last week. And it's like if we had won, we'd have been on 36 points, 2 wins on the bounce, 4 points off that playoff spot. You never know what's going to happen. Rafe are coming for that playoff spot, and it's like it would have kept St Johnstone 8 points clear with 6 games left. It would have killed it dead. But
Yeah.
it's. I still think St Johnstone are gonna sort of do enough to, at a minimum, maintain that gap. But it's like stranger things have happened. It's like we bring up Falkirk last season where they sort of had a end of season collapse that was only mitigated by beating a relegated Accies on the final day of the season.
A team that took the lead against them as well.
That's the thing. It's just like it could have very easily been like this huge collapse. It's like you never know what happens in these sort of run-ins, and it's like keep the pressure on. You never know what's going to happen. That's really all that can be said for Partick. So, whereas for me, it's just a case of played well, but just unlucky to just not get a result. Just move on. Is that we still have Ayr, Morton, and Ross County to play at home. Those are the games that we need to be winning or getting results in at a minimum. Especially with the fact that we have 3 games away from home in a row between Morton and Ross County. So just getting as much points as possible in this run is really just the aim of it. I don't want to be going into that Ross County game at home just being like, oh, if we lose, we're finishing ninth and we end up playing Stenhousemuir or whatever. I don't want to be in that situation. Just keep going on. But so that's all of this round of fixtures for us, and of course we'll just quickly go over the table as it stands. So St Johnstone are set on 61 points. Top of the table. Thistle second on 56. Arbroath third on 47. Dunfermline on 40, but with a game in hand. Ayr on 35 with a game in hand. They're tied with Queen's Park. Then it is Rafe and Morton on 33 apiece. Ross County in ninth on 28, and Airdrie are 10th on 27. Of course, we do go on to this weekend's round of fixtures where there are two games for Friday night under the lights, but this is not because any of them are on BBC Scotland. This is because of the Scotland Japan friendly that takes place at Hampden on this Saturday. It's unusual for Scotland to be playing on Saturdays. I feel like it's always like Thursdays, Sundays,
Yeah,
Tuesdays, those sort of days.
yeah.
It's been a while since Scotland played on Saturday. So the two games that got moved are Partick Thistle at home to Ross County. Kieran, your thoughts on this one?
Unfortunately, I won't be able to make it on Friday night. I'm working, so that I'm a bit gutted. Can't get to that game. Obviously, again, another big one on Friday night, isn't it? We win. I think the incentive is we win, and we're 2 points behind St Johnstone. We've clawed it back. We're still in the title fight. We've got a chance to bring it right down to the wire. The title race, but aye, St Johnstone again. They shouldn't, for how poor they have been, they shouldn't be taken lightly. I think realistically, I think you're looking at Thistle winning, but St Johnstone have got everything to fight for. They're bottom of the
You mean Ross
table.
County,
They've
right?
they've got their aye. What?
You mean Ross County? You've been saying St Johnston.
Oh, for fuck's sake! Aye, I wish St Johnstone were down the bottom end of the table, Callum.
You wish. Points deduction.
Aye, yeah, aye. Release the Steve Valacari files. No, aye, that might have to get that. But aye, as I was saying, sorry, Ross County, they're at the bottom end of the table. They've got everything to fight for. They've got their pretty much our championship status to fight for. So we can't take them lightly. You can't say, "Oh, this will be an easy win," because I've been here before so many times. I remember the season, the Dingwall season. Funnily enough, we lost back to back. Cove and Hamilton, which were the both teams that ended up getting relegated that season, and that just killed our um, title hopes because we were right on Dundee's back at that time, and we lost to them back to back, and I we ended up never winning it. So these games are kind of typically the ones that we do slip on. So but again, it's at Farhill. I've got every right to be confident.
Yeah, it really does seem that way. It's definitely every fixture for Thistle at this point is a must win. I know it's like beating Ross County could be, revenge for those Dingwall days of playoff defeats and whatnot. It's consign them to the relegation playoffs, please, please win on Friday, Partick Thistle. The other Friday game is Wraith at home to Ayr. As mentioned, our home record is decent, and it's like we were thoroughly the better team against Airdrie. We were on par with Partick Thistle at a minimum, and better team in spells. I'm lucky to not get a goal in that, so I'm fairly confident in that one, especially with how Ayr have been playing. But of course, Ayr's away form has over the course of the season been decent. But like as mentioned, they're bottom of the form table for the last 5 and 10 games. So I'm fairly confident going into this one, and this will, as mentioned, maybe be the end of Scott Brown. Finally, after we've been speculating over it for half a season at this point. But there are two games on the Saturday. Both of them are 1 o'clock kickoffs. Again, moved because of the Scotland friendly. That is Morton at home to Arbroath. Big game for Morton, especially depending on the result. For Hill, Arbroath again. It's like Dunfermline aren't playing. They were meant to be playing Airdrie, but I think Dunfermline have got more than 3 players called up, so that game's been postponed due to international call-ups. And then, but it's like with Arbroath, it's like they can extend their lead in third and basically guarantee that playoff spot. And of course, the other one is St Johnstone at home to Queen's Park, as mentioned. It's like St Johnstone will know what the result is from Friday night, and same with Queen's Park. To try and get as high as possible at this point. I should mention, I just remembered this, in regards to games being postponed due to international co-ops. The cooperation agreements have come up again, because in League One, Montrose against Cove has been called off due to Cove having 3 players called up for international duty. All 3 of those players are at Cove from Aberdeen as part of this cooperation loan agreement, which is quite funny, if anything. I'm sure this was a bit of an oversight from the people at the SFA as to what would happen in this scenario, because obviously it's like the rule is if you have 3 or more players, you're allowed to request a postponement. I think Montrose have 2 players called up as well, and from what I've heard, I've not seen any. I'm not sure if there was an official statement or whatever from Montrose, but they're really. The word is that they're just really not happy about this. But aye, but aye, that is it for Championship this week, and of course we will be back to cover those 4 games next week. So it's been great to have you here again, Kieran, and we shall see you next week. Bye for now.
Catch you after. Take care.